Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We are broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world. We're bringing you quality, pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, and for the first half hour also on TikTok. Folks, please do send us your greetings. Please do send us your comments. Please do send us your questions, and please tell us what is on your mind this evening in our fantastic country. Now, in half an hour, we're going to have our guest for this evening, which is Nick Mitchell from the WeSayIt Podcast, which broadcasts on Rumble and also on X. And Nick is our co-organizer of our SNP OUT NOW rally, which we're going to be holding at the end of March. More on that in a minute. Between then and now, we're going to be looking at the Nicola Sturgeon, Peter Murrell case. We're going to be looking at the Gorton and Denton By-Election. We're going to be looking at the increasing costs of housing so-called homeless refugees in Glasgow, and we're going to be looking at how all of that came about. That's if we can squeeze all of that in the next half hour. So please hang around for that. And folks, if you can, please do give this a repost on X. Please do give it a share on Facebook. Please do give it a share on YouTube as well, because that's the way we get our message out to new people and to new listeners. And we depend upon you, the viewer, to help spread that around the internet worldwide. So thanks for doing that, folks. And always just give us a thumbs up as well, because it all helps the algorithm. Now, the first thing that we want to talk about tonight is our big rally that's going to be coming up on Saturday, the 28th of March. And we've got a great graphic for that as well. There you go. We're calling it SNP OUT NOW. Rally outside Holyrood. Saturday, the 28th of March, 1:30 for a 2 p.m. start. And we're going to be saying, look, SNP, your time is up. We're voting for change. We're voting you out. We're saving Scotland. We're protecting our kids and our future. Folks, do bring along your British flags, your flags of the British Isles. And we're going to have a big roster of speakers as well, which we'll announce in time once we've organised everybody together for that. But that's it. It's going to be a family-friendly rally. And guess what? We're holding it at the same time as the usual suspects are having their rally as well. That's why we picked that date, because the official marching wing of the SNP, who call themselves Believe in Scotland, they're going to be having a rally outside Holyrood at the same time. Okay. So that's why we'll be there as well, just to show that, hey, there's two sides to that particular question. If you didn't already know, John Swinney, that's going to be the message, basically. SNP out, John Swinney out. Your time is up. Now, don't get us wrong, of course. We know we're very aware of the politics of the matter and Scotland's unique voting system. And it looks like the SNP probably will get the majority of the seats. But the crucial thing we have to ensure is that they don't get 65 seats or more out of the 129, because that would give them a governing majority. That's the first thing we have to ensure. The second thing we have to ensure is that the SNP and the Greens together do not get 65 or more, because then that would give a Separatist Coalition a governing majority, and we don't want that either. So that's what we have to ensure, is that the SNP don't get their 65 seats, and together with the Greens, they don't even get 65 seats. Can we ensure that? I think that we can this time round. That's the positive message to aim for. Now, let's look at, for example, a recent opinion poll. The last opinion poll that we've got was on the 9th of February. And basically, it was showing that the SNP were going to get, and we've got the graphic of that. There we go. SNP were going to get 58 seats. Reform 22. Labour 17, Conservative 12, Lib Dems 10, and Greens 10. And so you see, if you added the 58 SNP to the 10 Greens, that would indeed give 68, which would be a governing majority for a separatist coalition. And that's what we do not want. We do not want that. Thanks for the comments coming in on TikTok. I'm Alistair McConnachie of A Force for Good. If you don't already know that on TikTok, please do Google A Force for Good. Please do Google us if you're not sure on TikTok about A Force for Good. But we are Scotland's premier pro-UK campaigning organisation, and we're going to be having our rally on the 28th of March. Can I adjust the lighting here from afar? I don't think that I can, but it looks okay. It looks okay, but let me see if I can turn the light a little bit more. How's this? How's it looking, folks? How's the light looking? That's a little bit of an improvement. So let's say hello to the people who have been coming in. Derek's first in tonight. Good evening, Alistair and AFFG family. Good to see you back. Always good to see Derek. Great supporter of the cause. What does this button do? Straight in with some politics, saying that those people who big up reform or restore are going to split the vote. Well, that might happen. Well, he's got a few comments here. We can't read them all out, but thank you for that. Hi to Oksana. What does this button do? Thinks that Farage is not going to stick around. That's if you're presuming he does have a deliberate plan to split the vote. Sir, I'm not sure that he's got a deliberate plan to split the vote. People could say that the Conservatives were splitting the Reform vote. The Many Faces of Ego says, greetings, Unionists, as does Catherine. Hello to you, Catherine. And Located Whisper says, glory to the Union. Glory to the Union. And hello to Paul Hadlow from the Garden of England, and to Derek. And the chap on TikTok, Voodoo, we don't care about what you say on those matters, sir. That's old hat. And TC 6005 says, good evening to all fellow unionists everywhere watching from South London. Well, I hope it's nice in South London these days. It's pretty cold up here today, I have to say. Paul, with some positivity here, says, you cannot suppress the truth. The SNP cult will come crashing to the ground. Oksana says, and let's talk about this. They're talking about a 5% council tax rise in Glasgow to pay for refugees. Now, this was the story. This is a good way into to what we were wanting to talk about. The Record today had a story about this. There you go, by Paul Hutchin. Exclusive. SNP-led Glasgow Council is considering borrowing 30 million and hiking council tax by 5% to tackle the refugee homelessness crisis. The plan comes as the city faces a budget black hole of nearly 50 million. Okay. Now, what's all this about? Well, what it refers to is Glasgow having become a kind of, I don't want to use the word mecca, but certainly, well, I just did, didn't I? Let's find a better word to use. Glasgow has become a magnet for refugees. Now, a refugee is somebody who has been officially given asylum status. Okay, you come over on the boat in a dinghy, you're an asylum seeker, you live in a hotel for several months, you go through the process. If the government decrees that you have a case, then they make you an official refugee. And an official refugee is immediately entitled to be treated exactly the same way as any other British citizen, as far as benefits go, as far as access to social housing go. It's really quite remarkable. In fact, if you come over legally as a skilled immigrant, you will not get full access to social housing or full access to benefits until you've been here 5 years and until you have applied and got indefinite leave to remain. However, if you're a refugee, you can come over on a boat, you can be here for a few months, and then you get refugee status, and then you get everything. You get everything. It's totally absurd. Anyway, what happened was from 2022, lots of people who had been given refugee status started turning up in Glasgow, believing that they were going to be able to get access to social housing. Now, there's not enough social housing to go around for people who are Indigenous Glaswegians, let alone newcomers. However, the council, under the law in Scotland, does have an obligation to house them in some way. So they usually put them up in hotels and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the taxpayer has to pay for it. Now, people question, how did all of this come about? Now, last week, the front page of the Scottish Daily Express, Friday, February the 13th, SNP slammed for open door migrant policy. And this went into it in some detail. And it said here that in 2022, the quote unquote local connection rule was abolished by the SNP. And what that required was that if you did not have a local connection to Glasgow, which was defined in a specific way, then Glasgow could send you back to wherever your local connection was, where you had spent time and lived previously. And prior to 2022, just 35 individuals who had no local connection to any Scottish local authority made a homeless application to Glasgow Council. That was 22 from outside Scotland and 13 from outside the UK. But the following year, after this change had been made, this increased to 1,290. which was 356 from outside Scotland and 934 with no local connection to any council in the UK at all. And in 2024, to date, a further 2,089 applications have been made from individuals outside Scotland, 522 from elsewhere in the UK, and 1,567 from outside the UK. So that local connection rule did have the effect, intended or otherwise, of suddenly encouraging lots of asylum seekers to come here. Now, you take that information to Mary McCallum, the SNP Housing Minister, and she will say to you, quite rightly, and this is the mysterious thing, that local connection rule never applied to refugees in the first place, because when they were asylum seekers, say down in England, they were never considered to have a local connection to the authorities. So by abolishing that local connection rule, it was meant to maybe apply to people who already had a local connection, but it never applied to refugees anyway. So what she'll say is that changing that or reinstating it won't make any difference because it never applied to them in the first place. Okay, so it never applied to them in the first place, but it did have the effect. It did have the unintended effect by increasing the numbers in 1 year from 35 to the latest figure in 1 year of 2,089. So it clearly had an effect, whatever the particulars of the law may be. And so it would be a good idea just to restore that local connection rule anyway. Whether it will stop asylum seekers coming here or not, who knows, but it should at least be done. The second thing, which does have an effect as well, is a rule called the Priority Needs Rule, which gives precedent to housing certain homeless groups, such as families with children or women facing domestic abuse. But in 2012, SNP ministers abolished it so that everyone who was assessed as homeless was considered to have a priority need. Now, that is really unfair because some people do need it more than others. If you're a young man, healthy, straight off the boat from Dover, you turn up. In my view, your priority need for a house is not as great as, say, a single woman with children or an abused woman that needs some kind of shelter. But try telling that to Mary McCallum, who says, quote, "Scotland has some of the strongest homelessness rights in the world, and the abolition of priority need is the cornerstone of this. I have no intention of rolling back the rights of any homeless household, which would place many people at greater risk of destitution and harm." So she thinks she's on her high horse there. But when she's talking about homeless households, she's talking about your refugee male who came off the boat a few months ago. And she's saying that he is the same priority need as a woman facing domestic abuse or a woman trying to find a home for a family, or a young family that's been made, a young Glasgow family that's been made homeless through no fault of their own. So sorry, Mary McCallum, get off your high horse. There is such a thing as priority need, and it should be part of the homeless laws. So basically, what we need to do is to reinstate priority need into the homeless law, and we also need to reinstate local connection. Priority need will make a difference. It should make a difference anyway by pointing out that these refugees do not have priority need. And it should make a difference as well with local connection. You should really only be getting, local councils should really only have to look after the local people in that area. And they shouldn't be expected to have to cater for the homeless who have come from other areas of Scotland. Anyway, the upshot of all of this is, of course, great expense for us all, and our council taxes going up. And all the SNP can do is blame it on Westminster. And at least in that regard, they do have a point, because yes, Westminster could stop all of this refugee traffic by simply criminalising the route across the channel and saying anybody who comes across the channel in a dinghy is breaking the law of entry and is going to prison. And the only reason that we don't do that is because we're a member of the UN Refugee Convention, and the UN Refugee Convention legalizes what would otherwise be illegal behavior. It legalizes any method of entry into the United Kingdom, subversive or otherwise, providing you're doing it to claim asylum. And that's just a crazy concept that's been around since the end of World War II, and we're entering a new era now, and all that rubbish just has to go. It has to go. And I'm glad to say that we are seeing groups coming up who recognize that. We've got Reform. We've got, recently this week, in fact, we've got Rupert Lowe's new creation, which is called Restore Britain. And Rupert Lowe is certainly very strong on the deportation angle and the things that I've just been talking about. Reform also, although Reform is playing in the big mainstream game now, so it's got to kind of sometimes rein itself in a bit and appear to be all things to all men. But they're standing, Reform is standing at a Westminster by-election, which is going to be held a week tomorrow. A week tomorrow, we'll know who's won that. And I just discovered a recent thing about this area of Manchester that the by-election is in. It's called Gorton and Denton. And let's just put up a wee thing that we've got here from Gorton and Denton. And now, that's the table of the wards that are in Gorton and Denton, broken down by religious affiliation. And would you believe that the Muslim population, those who identify as Muslim, is almost 30%. If you break those averages down, it's almost 30%. The Christian, however that's being defined these days, is about 41%. But okay, you've got 30% of that ward that constituency identifies as Muslim. I would like to know how on earth Reform think they're going to win that. Okay, we can remove the thing now, but if you've got 30% identifying as Muslim, I can't see them voting for Reform UK. I mean, obviously you get some westernized Muslims such as Zia Yusuf, who is one of their main leaders, and you've got Leah Cunningham. They're Muslims, but they're kind of westernized, and I can't see the great bulk of working class Muslims in Manchester voting for Reform UK. I just, of course there's exceptions to the rule and so on, but I can't see how that's going to be likely. So anything can happen, of course. Anything could happen, but I would imagine that that group will vote. It might be split between the Greens and Labour. I should imagine most of its vote will go to the Greens, because Zach Polanski has been deliberately courting them and courting their particular concerns, especially as far as conflict in the Middle East goes. And so I would think it would be a real struggle for Reform to win. Certainly if the Muslim vote came out, I can't see how Reform could win, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe it'll be a very, very small turnout. Maybe they won't get very many folk there. Who knows? But that's an interesting statistic. 30% of that ward identifies as Muslim. And it will be the case in quite a few of these Westminster constituencies now that the ability of of an immigration restrictionist party to be elected is probably a pipe dream, which has led people like Rupert Lowe, understandably, to really come out strongly on the whole deportation issue. And the deportation issue can be done actually very, very easily, and it can be done without any kind of problems whatsoever. And we spoke about this in our book, Protect Our Country, because all you need to do, well, let me just run through basically 5 things that you need to do. You need to firstly get serious about deporting the categories of people that you can deport under current law. And these are inadmissible asylum seekers, failed asylum seekers, clandestine illegals, that's the people who sneak in the back of a lorry, visa breaching migrants, visa expired migrants, and convicted criminals who are either foreign nationals or dual nationals. All of these people can be deported within the law and should be deported within the law right now. And if that was seen to be done, then that would also stop other types of illegal people coming in. Now, for the legal immigrants, we need to stop treating people who get official refugee status as British citizens as soon as they get refugee status. We do that because Articles 23 and 24 of the UN Refugee Convention demand it, but we need to leave that because we cannot be given social housing and benefits to refugees. That's a massive pull factor into the country, a massive pull factor. That's the second thing. Then we need to end or severely restrict all benefits, including social housing, to non-citizens. And then we need to make citizenship extremely difficult to acquire. No longer just after 6 years. How about after 25 years? And then we also need to remove voting rights from non-citizens, because at British elections and in Gorton and Denton, a lot of these people who can vote will not even be British citizens. All Indian immigrants can vote. All Pakistani immigrants can vote. All Nigerian citizens can vote. All citizens from any former Commonwealth country can vote at any election in the British Union, in the United Kingdom. So that's 55 Commonwealth countries, 56 if you include Zimbabwe. And as far as Scotland and Wales are concerned, at all devolved elections, anybody in the world can vote here, providing they're here legally and have a legal residence. So these are the things that we need to do. We need to get serious about that. And if we did that, lots of people would actually self-deport. And every year there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people leaving, the majority of whom are foreign nationals anyway. So if you restrict immigration right down, then you'll find that every year hundreds of thousands of people just leave, and they leave naturally. And this is what we say in this book, Protect Our Country. Policies to stop mass immigration. It's what I've said to you is it's all detailed in here. It's all detailed in here. And we show how it can all work and come together as a cohesive whole in order to do what needs to be done. Folks, that was an extended bletheration. I hope you found some of it worthy, off the top of the dome, as they say. But I mean, I've written a book on this. I've written a book on this so I could talk about this all the time. Now, let's just, before we bring up our friend Nick, who I can see is in the studio waiting, let's just check some of your comments here. TC says we've got, that's Rafa. Hello, Rafa, from Belfast. Great place. TC says we have 25 years left to save our country. Nice to see Anthony. Alan Dawes says they are colonizers. Well, you're siding with Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who talked about the colonization of the United Kingdom the other day. John McLean wonders why our politicians are so hell-bent on destroying the UK and its indigenous people. It can't just be money or power. For some of them it would be money or power, but some of them are that's just the way that they are, kind of twisted, really, I suppose. And false ideologies can lead a man to ruin. And many of these people just have false ideologies, not thinking correctly, not thinking straight. DTube, thank you. DTube has given us a £5 super chat. And he says, let's hope Trump has finally ended the Chagos debacle. DTube, thank you very much for that. Folks, if you'd like to send us some money via YouTube, just click on the $sign, which is below the video. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, DTube. Can we good stuff. Any other super chats that I missed? Johnny, outstanding as always. Catch up with you soon, mate. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Johnny. Hope things are good for you. Now, folks, please say hello. Please say hello to our good friend Nick Mitchell from the We Say It podcast.
Oh, I'm too big. I think I'm too big here. Wait a minute.
Hey.
There we go. How we doing, guys? How we doing, everyone? How we doing, Alistair?
Yeah, doing fine. Doing fine. Thank you for coming on to the show tonight. Now, you were the co-organizer with us last time round, which was in September last year outside Holyrood. Now we are doing it once again.
Yes, the deadly duo is back again.
Absolutely, the gruesome twosome, the deadly duo. I think I prefer that one. So yeah, it's going to be on the 28th of March, and it's going to be at the same place. And you know what? You put together a little video. So just by way of introduction, we're going to fire this video up for 30 seconds. Fantastic.
It hits. Thanks. It just hits. It's there. I'm happy with that one. I like that one.
Good. How long did that take?
In total, probably about like a week, but over like not a week constant. It was like I know a few hours here trying to get everything just right. You know, these things take time, but you know, we get there in the end. When you want perfection, you don't just chuck it out. You know, you want it to be straight to the message, straight to the point. All the information that you need is there. It's only 30 seconds. Well, it's only like 27 or 28 seconds. So I didn't want to make it, you know, a minute, 2 minutes. People tune out. You know, you've literally got 30 seconds basically to make your point, to show your point, to explain what you're doing, time, place, location, etc. And it's all there, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And in today's modern world, with so much social media, so much information out there, you do need to really get it into 30 seconds. If you're interested to know further, then you can go into looking at longer form videos and articles and stuff like that. But no, for something like that. And you know what? I'll be over in Edinburgh probably before the end of this month. So what we need to do is do some of our short videos as well to get out on YouTube Shorts and things like that in the run up to it. But why do you think that it's important to rally? We'll be rallying about 5 weeks out from the event. What's your thoughts on the necessity of that?
So actually, I seen one of the person watching along's comment saying we've got 25 years to save the country. Unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have less than 5. This is it. This is the last chance. If you don't get it, if we don't get it right this time, Scotland's finished. The Scottish population as a nationality, I know unionists, etc., but as a Scottish country, we're finished as a population. If the SNP basically get back in, I hate to be the bearer of that bad news, but that's just the reality of it. If the SNP get their way, if they do get a majority seat, you know the first thing they're going to do, I've said it before, they're going to push for independence. Will they likely get the ability to have a vote on independence again? One does not know. But let's go on the assumption they do, and let's go on the hypothetical they win. The first thing they're then going to do is obviously join the EU again. And you know what that comes with. I said it last year. We will become Scotlandistan. That is the nicest way to put it. Like, we will be gone as a Scottish population. We can't have that. We can't have it. We need to remain Scotland, UK, together. Now, this year is almost going to be kind of like America's last year presidential election. Who's the lesser of the two evils? Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That's not my job to do that. You'll make that conscious decision yourself on May the 7th when the polls and the polling stations open. But what I will say is if you don't vote, you're basically just handing a vote to the SNP. That's it in simple terms. So you have to get out and vote, right? If anybody with a sane thinking brain are not going to vote Labour, look what they're doing down in England. Look what they've done to the country so far. At every twist and turn, they've either lied, done a U-turn, deceit, everything, every negative word you could possibly say. And that's why we need to rally to make our voices heard. Your voice, my voice, speaker's voice. You know what? See if you're coming along as just a person joining the rally, make your voice heard as well. Talk to people. Understand why you're there, what you're doing there, what you want to say. And we're going to have opposition of the SNP lot. And unfortunately, nature of the beast, we're probably going to have an opposition of some sort that's not going to be part of the SNP. It's just unfortunate circumstance. What I will say on that matter, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Let them do what they're going to do. Let them say what they're going to say. Don't rise to them. You're not there to battle them. You're there to battle the government in the building behind you. That's why you're there.
Yeah, good point. As I mentioned earlier in the program before you came on, the SNP do have an official marching wing. It's called Believe in Scotland. And that's slightly different from all under one banner. All under one banner are the outliers, that they're the biggest movement. But the SNP MSPs as such try to keep distance from them because they're a little bit unpredictable. However, they do have an in-house campaign group called Believe in Scotland that the SNP is happy to associate with and happy to stand on its platforms when it speaks. So they're going to be rallying probably on the grass in the same area where the All Under One banner did so last September. And they'll have SNP MSPs there. And they possibly will even have John Swinney there, actually. So that would be a good time to get our message, which is John Swinney out. In fact, one of our friends designed a wee John Swinney out banner here, which we'll just flag up. But John Swinney out, SNP out, they're going to be the ones that we'll be looking at. There we go, Swinney out, SNP out. I don't know if our colleagues putting that into a flag or what, but it's a good wee message that we'll get. Okay. So they're going to be there, and we'll have our PA system, which will be addressing our concerns, but they'll hear it as well. But between the two of us, there'll probably be the usual suspects trying to shout down unionism. But if you're thinking about coming along, don't let any of that bother you. It's all very well organized. The police are used to all of these social crowd situations, especially outside Holyrood. So they're very good. And we dealt with them last year. They were very good then as well. So it will be an exciting day. Let's hope we get some nice weather for it. March the 28th. And that's 1:30 for a 2 o'clock start. We'd imagine we'll be there for an hour and a half thereabouts, and see how that goes. And if you'd like to speak at it, if somebody would like to speak at it there, just tell us, and we'll have a look and we'll consider it. But we've got 1 or 2 speakers already. You'll be speaking, I'll be speaking, and 1 or 2 other voices will be talking as well. And hopefully we'll have maybe up to 8 people. Who knows how many that will have. Anything in particular that you would be wanting to talk about? I noticed there in your video you had like 100 SNP failures or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on a few of them, and I'm going to touch on a few of the major ones, as it were, and sort of focus in on not just that individual failure, but the failures in which have led to other failures based on that one factor, So I'm going to be doing a little bit on that, maybe about a quarter of my speech, as it were, on the failures, but maybe half. Let's just go all in. Let's just destroy the SNP as much as we possibly can and actually open people's eyes. Now, I hope people see that video and actually pause it on those 100 failure bits and just have a little nosy down the list at what they've actually done and what they've failed on. And I think a few of them might actually shock a few people and go, oh, Jesus, I didn't realise they did that, and I didn't realise they did that. Well, yeah, this wonderful SNP that you think because they're giving free bus travel to 5 to 22-year-olds and free tuition, which isn't really free, and free prescriptions that isn't really free, and freezing rail fares that they haven't really froze because all they've done is just increase the prices of rail fares anyway. So they've not froze anything. All they've done is just increase the prices. Like, it doesn't take an Einstein level of IQ to understand what they've done, Yeah. You think it's 20 pence. Oh, it's an increase of 20 pence. What's 20 pence? Well, how many people take the train on a daily basis? Well, you know what? It's a number I'm going to need to find. But again, let's just say, for argument's sake, it's 50,000 people a day at 20 pence a go. You know what I mean? It's stupid numbers. So, yeah, all this garbage that they're spouting, that they're going to start ramping up their campaigning and all of that, you're paying for that. You, as the taxpayer, are paying for them to wander the streets campaigning and trying to get your vote. Rather than actually doing something for the country, they're just squandering your money on travel and food and leaflets and garbage chat.
Well, they're squandering our money, but they're also squandering the actual poor Gubbins SNP voters who were they're squandering their money quite literally directly, because this was the thing. Peter Murrell alleged to have used party funds to buy cars, jewellery and a £125,000 motorhome. Now, this is an extraordinary story, as we all know, of course, that the SNP had this fundraiser to raise £600,000, and then somebody said, well, whatever happened to that £600,000? And then a big fraud investigation was announced. And do you know what? They wouldn't be taking this to court unless they had some pretty rock solid evidence about all of this. And quote, this is from the Telegraph of the 14th Feb. The allegations have emerged in a charge sheet outlining 8 embezzlement allegations Mr. Murrell faces at the High Court. He is accused of embezzling £459,000 of party funds between 12th of August 2010 and January the 13th, 2023. Now, this is an incredible amount, but it's all detailed. It's all detailed, and they're not going to take this to court unless they can prove all of that, unless they're pretty certain they can prove it. So, in other words, this is just absurd. And the sad thing is that Mr. Murrell had originally been due to appear in court next Friday for a preliminary hearing, but this will now take part on the 25th of May, after the Holyrood elections, 3 weeks after the Holyrood elections. Imagine if it had been before the Holyrood elections. That would have been pretty blooming good. But unfortunately, it's going to be after. But it's not going to do them any good afterwards as well. So it's all going to be coming out.
You know what, actually? That could possibly work in our benefit in maybe one way, shape or another. But it's only predicated on the fact that if the SNP win. Now, if the SNP win, that will be very damaging to them if the truth actually gets told, if they don't cover it up. Now, I saw something, I was just trying to find it there. I saw something earlier on that John Swinney was given some sort of evidence by the court prior to that court date that just got postponed. So John Swinney supposedly knew and seen the evidence and had the evidence, but didn't do anything with it in that latest court session there, apart from getting it adjourned to the 25th of May after elections. They know, every one of them, from John Swinney to Humza Yousaf to Nicola Sturgeon to every Tom, Dick and Harry that's high up in the SNP government, they knew exactly what was going on. But as they do, they lied, they covered, they hid it. Now, this is just one incident that's come to light. What other little, things are going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about apart from internal party? You're telling me it's just the one, just this one? Like, come on, like, fool me once? No.
Yes, indeed. There's who knows what's going on inside the party like that, but certainly Sturgeon knows. I mean, I just saw a comment there. Let me see. Missed it. But somebody saying there's no way that Nicola Sturgeon didn't know that was,
of course,
that was occurring. She must have known, but why she couldn't stop it, or why she felt she couldn't stop it, is it's all just
it's probably because she's sitting on half of the money herself. Like, she's effectively taking a back seat from politics now. Right? She's not even really on the back benches, if you want to call it that. She's in the reserve team, right? We'll call her that. She's a reservist. She might get called up, she might not. Now, she's got no other path to go now. She's pretty much been a career politician. She's got to her level. She got to where she got to. She failed. So what's she going to go and do now? She's going to go and sit behind a till in Asda and say, good morning, how's your day going? No. She had to sort her life out for her next, 25, 30 years of life, right? Well, I don't know how long she's going to live, but let's just say 30 years of life. She's no form of income. She won't get a form of income. So she's obviously been taking money from somewhere. Oh, there's a wee £600,000 lying about. Let me just take, there's a wee £100,000 there. There's a wee £25,000 there. Happy days, you know? Come on, man. It doesn't take a genius to figure out from top to bottom. It is corruption, lies, and deceit the whole way through. And that is why the 28th of March is crucial to get the message out and make people understand the more and more you vote for that mob, the worse off you're going to be. Forget about Westminster now. Forget about what's going on down in England and the rest, like all of this Labour government carry on. Sort your home out first. Get your home in order. If you stay in Scotland, you need to want to look out for what's best for Scotland. And by doing that, you're not voting Labour. You're not voting SNP. Who do you vote for? Yeah. Who do you vote for? Like, this is massive. This is actually bigger than I think a lot of people are ready to comprehend. This is huge. This is the future of Scotland. Like, this is it. This is all we've got.
Yeah. You mentioned it earlier, and basically it is almost like a kind of last stand, because if we have another 5 years of a party, a leadership, an executive, a domination of Holyrood by politicians of any party who support the continued numbers of people who are coming into Scotland at the levels at which they're coming in, then Scotland will be transformed within a matter of, 10 years at the most. And it'll be transformed. And as I've been saying all week on Facebook, last year, a population the size of East Kilbride came in long term to Scotland to settle. The year before that, a population the size of Paisley, bigger than Paisley, considerably bigger than Paisley. Last year it was about 76,000 people came in. The year before that, it was 90,000. And that 76,000 is provisional. We'll know what the exact number is in August this year, and it'll probably be another 15 or 20,000 more than what they told us, what they provisionally thought. But these are huge numbers, and if you're living in small rural areas, you might not be seeing it right now, but certainly if you're living in Glasgow, you are seeing it very, very clearly anytime you get onto a bus. So that can be stopped. That can be stopped, but what it needs is political voices in positions of power to stop it. And we do have a chance this time round of electing people who will shake up the system in a way, even if that's just pissing off the SNP and the Labour people who have been the system hitherto. So unless we get those voices heard, then nothing is going to be able to change, because people ourselves, what can we do really other than vote or support through monetary means those who are saying the right things? It's the politicians who have got the power to change the laws. And if we don't have politicians changing the laws, then what happens is the nation just degenerates and deteriorates and collapses. So we need to get the politicians in there. So that's the first step. And we do have a big chance on the 7th of May when we have our election, Thursday, the 7th of May. So folks, if you're not registered to vote, make sure you're registered to vote, because this is an opportunity for you. And don't let anybody say that it doesn't count. It does count. Voting does count. Every voice counts in a small way, because joined up snowflakes make avalanches.
No, that's just it. It's definitely, and it's a balance, chaos and order, right? They have the ability to create order, but instead of that, they're choosing the latter and causing chaos upon chaos upon chaos. Now, they do this very strategically, right? What I spoke about last year, problem, reaction, solution. They're creating the chaos. They know what they're doing. Then they go, oh, we have the solution. Look what we've done. Now vote for us. We done this for Scotland. We fixed this for Scotland. So now you can vote for us. And people are so narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned, and they hone in and focus on that one thing. And it's, oh my, like, they saved us because of the problem they created that they had the solution for already.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, I feel genuinely, right, and this is why I've been sort of lurking in the shadows a little bit. Dealing with people sometimes on a daily basis made me lose browsing cookies. It made me feel dumber. I'm not going to lie. I felt my IQ dropping sometimes when I was trying to talk to people about specific things. So I thought, you know what? Just enjoy your night, mate. Right? That was it. That was the point I got to. Right?
Yeah. Well,
I Kevin Bridged people. That's what I did.
Yes. I think you have to take that attitude sometimes. Now, reached the end, the top of the hour. Now, you do have a Rumble channel, and we'll put your address up there. And that Rumble is a bit like YouTube, but it's more free speech. And you'll also find things on Rumble spoken about and ideas and so on that you won't see anywhere else. And it's an American thing, but well, so is YouTube, I suppose. What I mean by that is most of the people on it are Americans. Now, do we have your address here to fire up? We do indeed. And let me do that. It's here.
Any follows would be much appreciated, and on X as well would be much appreciated, guys.
Yes, because it's rumble.com/user/WeSayIt Podcast. And I know you're going to have me on it before the event on the 28th. And you're also on X.
It's only 2 platforms I'm allowed on. Can't go on anything else. Not allowed.
Yes. we don't have your X thing. Oh, there it is. x.com/WeSayIt Podcast. Good. Okay, Nick. Any final closing comments?
No, just obviously I look forward to catching up with you next month and the end of this month when we meet up in person, and obviously on the big day of the 28th of March. Remember, guys, 1:30, Scottish Parliament for a 2 o'clock start.
Excellent.
Be there.
Excellent. Okay then, Nick, we'll speak to you again. Have a good night. Good stuff. Nick Mitchell from the We Say It podcast, and always good to speak with Nick and have him on the show. Let's say thanks to Nick for that. Now, a few comments there. TC says regarding the migrants, they're busing them into the Broch, coach load after coach load, and they're not going there to go fishing. Yeah. Leeds says simple solution, make benefits only available if they've paid the tax into the pot in the first place. We'll stop the gravy train in its tracks entirely. There's no reason why people who are not even citizens should be getting benefits when benefits are meant to be for the national citizenry. Good. Okay, folks. Well, we've had a good event, a good program tonight. We'll be back next Wednesday when we'll also have a guest. I look forward to speaking to you then. But until then, please remember, put in your diary, Saturday, the 28th of March, outside Holyrood, 1:30 for a 2 p.m. start. We're having our SNP Out Now rally. And let's just close out with Nick's video again as we say to you, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the King. See you next week.